Greetings. Peace. Look, let me create this while I have the time. I'm gonna just let this video play. Shout out to the sister who was talking about this. Healthy families. Let's give honor to the source, to the creator, making all this possible. Ancestors known and unknown for the highest good. I say gratitude. Healthy families respect boundaries, but narcissistic families cross them and make you feel guilty for setting them. Whoa. I've been getting so much clarity on even where things did not make sense to me, why I cut family members off or not even deal with them anymore, whether it's a mother or father or certain people. It's because I feel like we're unaware of when I say narcissistic templates or just the society beliefs on even the family structure, how unhealthy it is, and how narcissistic and controlling it is, that what type of society that we're in. And again, what I've always spoke on about the matriarchal enabling these very things, because again, those things beginning with the mothers who enable these things and their sons to become fathers. Again, cycles continue, and it happens both ways through fathers and mothers. I'm gonna let y'all hear what she said, and I'm gonna point out some things that have happened to me personally. I always do this, like, it's just experience, because it gave me so much clarity on, like, whoa, I see why people act the way they did.
A healthy family dynamic. Boundaries is a part of a healthy family dynamic.
Boundaries.
We don't dismiss them, we honor them, because we know healthy boundaries build individuality.
Yes.
A narcissistic dysfunctional family is a part of a healthy family. We don't dismiss them, we honor them, because we know healthy boundaries build individuality.
Okay, so boom. That first part right there, if you are in any type of dynamic right now, family structure, whatever it is, I had to come to this self-realization how so much people that I grew up with was so controlling and narcissistic that it literally affected me to where it affected even my household at a time, until the very moment that I'm right here. Like, I'm not ashamed and feel guilty over none of that. I realized through, again, the foundation, again, I talked about the floor plan that I had from the belief systems, whether unconsciously my mom or, a father not being there or just a man in my life, recognizing what, the control aspect of what I could not control as a child, how I could not protect myself, how I could not, at a time, show up for myself as much as I wanted to. So later in my years, I realized I developed similar patterns, behavior patterns, learned behavior patterns from the very people because of their unhealthiness within themselves and also the foundation. Now at the age of 35, I'm gradually, after the last few years, gaining a more deeper awareness on healthy boundaries in order for me to build a healthy environment, a healthy and safe, happy, joyful experience, not just for me, but for my kids or anyone connected to me. So again, I recognize, as she said in the beginning,
healthy family dynamic. We don't dismiss them, we honor them, because we build individuality.
So again, building individuality. When you have dealt with or personally dealing with emotionally unavailable parents or people who have, through learned behavior, you developed abandonment issues or emotional abandonment issues, yes, that can pretty much breed or groom control in your relationships. It happened to me. I was like, oh my gosh. And with that, the dismissing the boundaries aspect. And you have to realize what that looks like is when you don't want to be bothered, or how could this play out in your childhood where you could have had a parent who was very impulsive or very combative or whatever it is, and don't respect your boundaries. Just the fact of respecting, not even respecting themselves, so they don't respect the boundaries of you walking in your authenticity or your individuality. And one thing that highlighted for me from reflecting from my the family dynamic I grew up in, the sisters and so forth, family members and all that, who, let's say, like a grandmother represented the hierarchy of the family, but being that it was very controlling and narcissistic on the fact of, let's say, using my experience of my artistry, I never really felt loved or seen or even embraced from those very family members, or even supported when it came to my individualism, when it came to my artistry. This is, again, have been very highlighted, not only in that dynamic, but also as I start to grow into more and more and expand on my artistry, whether it's writing, whether it's YouTube and so forth. And that became very clear because when you had, let's say, a certain family member who would bring in more financially, I didn't realize a lot of financial abuse or envy and jealousy, or even the fact of how people are non-supportive of your individualism or even your purpose and vision, being that they don't either have the opportunity or they just don't care to even honor their vision or purpose. And so a lot of where the control comes in is that they want to control, in a way, who is what when it comes to finances. Like, let's say I could support you, but I'm not going to do it, or I know that you're ends are not meeting right now, so I'm still not going to support you. I've had family members literally do this, and I was like, whoa. When she mentioned about, like, even having healthy boundaries or even trying to focus on your individualism, I realized a lot of those people never had anyone to support their vision, or how much people cross boundaries or cross the threshold of disrespecting each other, never allowing people to really walk into their purpose. And I would see a lot of family members not growing outside of not only just their environment but their home setting and so forth, because there would be such a codependency there because of the control or the narcissism when it comes to a parent or guardian who wanted to control the whole environment, who wanted to have them more so in an enmeshment connection or emotionally incessive connection, because the adult them now never grew outside of the trauma or chose to face, or the shadow work, or face the fears of being away from those people to see their individuality, to walk in their purpose and so forth. So let me see here. She added more to this. Let me see.
A narcissistic dysfunctional family does not have individuality, has rigid or enmeshed boundaries. They don't have healthy boundaries.
No healthy
where people
boundaries.
Can walk in their own truth and identity, and you accept them for who they are. It's built on control. And if you go against the norm, you become the problem. That's why I say you have to go and petition the family parole board in order for you to be who you are. That's insane. That's insanity. What are we doing here? I'm not doing anything to hurt the family. I just have my own mind. I just have my own beliefs. And why can't I say what I want to say when y'all always say what y'all have to say? And when I say what I want to say, it's a problem. And I'm minimizing. I'm gaslit. Healthy. It's built on control. And if you go against the norm, you become the problem. That's why I say you have to go and petition the family where people can walk in their own truth and identity, and you accept them for who they are. They don't have healthy boundaries. Where people can, as rigid or enmeshed boundaries. They don't have healthy boundaries. Where people can walk in their own truth and identity, and you accept them for who they are. It's built on control.
And that's the thing where a lot of you are going to realize, like, a lot of these family structures, business and corporation, all of it's connected. Where it's built on so much control. Who has what? So much self-righteousness. So much, who's the head of household, who's this, who brings in the most money, all these egotistic driven things, or like she mentioned, like the enmeshment aspect of like how they can say so much. I grew up in a family dynamic where there was so much verbal abuse. There was no boundaries, healthy boundaries. There was I think she said enmeshment boundaries, which is like you can say enough, but you can't say stuff that goes against the fact of trying to even build something healthy. And that's when you become the problem. And that's when I realized, like, in certain dynamics, in certain spaces where you have to find a solution for self. As much as people want to say you're the problem, you're this, the solution is to leave. The solution is to find another way. The solution is to be better and make better decisions. Again, I remember reflecting, just by me trying to do something differently, I'm telling you, I was rejected so much. I was rejected by family members. I was rejected by so much when it comes to, that family, other than inside of creating my own. And then I start to realize, like, wow, of everything I'm facing from that dark aspect of, what was unresolved, is of everything I'm building now, which is healthy boundaries, which is the fact of now all of a sudden you're the problem because you don't want to be around these people, or you don't want your children to have these same effects or dispositions or dysfunctionality from being around the fact of, I'm telling you, like, I know I had relatives, certain people, like, bro, the way they talk to their kids, the way they beat their kids, the way they found reasons to just slap them, find reasons to try to find reasons to anything, shows not only just the fact of, like, that's what fueled the dysfunction. And once I walked away, I was like, oh yeah, nah, y'all can have that, y'all can have all of that. And again, hold on, what was the part she said?
Where people can walk in their own truth and identity, and you accept them for who they are. It's built on control. And
when you can walk in your truth and your authenticity, and just your true identity, they don't know what that is. Folks don't know what that is. And that's when I realized, like, it heightened a lot of people's insecurities, or it brought a lot of things up to where they're now recognizing, like, you don't have to have access to me, right? You do know that, right? And it's been over years, like, slowly I've had to wean off these people or cut them off, because I used to ask myself deeply, what is keeping me connected? And then I start to learn more about this right here, for those who aren't aware of what a enmeshment relationship is. Enmeshment meaning entangled in something. But let's see here. Look, enmeshment is a description of a relationship between two people or more people in which personal boundaries are, permeable and unclear. And it's funny that I say that, like, they're unclear. Oh my gosh. Enmeshment is a psychological term describing an extreme form of emotional closeness where personal boundaries become blurred and non-existent. God, what the man, what? Let me tell you something. I've been in relationships like that. I'm not ashamed to tell y'all about this shit, bro. If I didn't even grow up around people who, like, knew what it is to have boundaries, I realized this is where so much dysfunction came from. And some of it, I used to want to, like, beat myself up over it, like, feel guilty or hold the shame because I didn't know these things earlier. But now that I do, I tell myself, it's a sign of relief, because now I can create those healthier boundaries. And this actually builds more of a more intimate setting with myself and other people. Because when it says, like, an extreme form of emotional closeness, like, oh my gosh. And and I can see this happening with people who are in marriages, who have kids and so forth, and you never discuss boundaries, like healthy ones. You never were shown what it is to have a healthy boundary. And it says personal boundaries become blurred or non-existent. Oh my God, imagine that someone saying like, oh, you know what, respectfully, I would like for you not to just come here or do this and do that, and they just do it anyway. And you know, you beg something what people think is funny, but in reality, it shows, again, a lack of disrespect from them, but also respect for the other partner. And that's something, again, I had to learn. That's something I had to become more a heightened awareness around, being more healthy for myself, and creating that, holding space for that, realizing like I didn't come from a mother and or a father who, or even family dynamic. Like I'm telling, I used to see people like, bro, when I think about enmeshment, I think about emotional incest as well, like how a mother and father don't respect your boundaries when it comes to a relationship, when it comes to business and so forth. And it's funny, I'm talking about this because we're leading up into Libra season, where again a lot of things I can see are highlighted around that, because I can see people try to spin the block, or somebody try to spin the block, and in reality it's like I can tell I have more healthier boundaries. And it starts now, because it's like I've been having a lot of things come up, reflecting on the fact of like, whoa, I allowed it to go on, but why did I? Then I'm recognizing like, whoa, I see why I allowed it to go on. I didn't have no fucking boundaries. I didn't have no boundaries. I didn't know what boundaries were when it comes to healthiness and so forth. And I realized I was with some women who did not know what boundaries were. So again, how any other way can you not see it as enmeshment, or like something that's an attachment in a way, to where it becomes, in times in the past, it will become when we don't realize, we don't set boundaries, it can become combative. It can become, that confrontation can spill over into something unhealthy. And I'm like, whoa, I'm glad I'm getting this now, because shit, I used to see that a lot. Because you would want your children to grow up in their individuality, their purpose, and walk in their truth. And it's so important to learn this now, because when they grow, and you grow with them, you want them to be able to communicate to you and say, hey, respectfully, not right now, or respectfully. And that's something I had to develop through time, or through evolution, just through growth, personal growth. Even with reflecting on certain relationships with people, I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I still try to connect with this person? It was more than just emotion. It was more of like the unhealthiness of just desperately wanting something when I really need to just focus on myself. Well, these self-realizations are like, yeah. And that comes with, again, mothering and fathering yourself. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being honest with self. Being honest with myself and be like, you know what? Yeah, to catch or involve someone in something unpleasant or dangerous. Whew. Man, I sit here and reflect on like so much stuff that I saw growing up. How we really grew up thinking like playing people was a real thing, like having multiple people or talking to multiple people very young, and how that literally can spill over into adulthood. We thought these patterns were something that, like, the unhealthy part of that. Now, I'm not saying like being able, I know now how to build stuff with women, and I had to learn that. That was one of my, I didn't even know how to connect with women outside of like physical intimacy, which is so, like, I have a deeper awareness now. I'm like, wow, you really can connect with people outside of that, rather than just, because that was the culture, that was normalized, like that was something that, oh yeah, this is, I'm saying, like, no, bro, do you know what you can catch? Do you know what can happen out there? Are you very much aware? Do you know how much that shit affects your health, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, trying to show up for everybody else and extend yourself and overcompensate? Nah, I'm straight. So yeah, it's amazing how you realize like you were in something and you're blossoming, so it's like you're coming out, and with that you exposing self. It's not something to be having to feel shame and guilt around. I was like, whoa. I realized a lot of abandonment rules, or even the enmeshment relationship I had with my mom. Like, I'm trying to tell y'all, bro, like emotional incest in certain cultures, or even the fact of how some parents don't even realize, like unconsciously, or some kids when they grow don't even realize how deep of something that they're in, to where it causes them so much more suffering. And the reason I'm so grateful for this is because I, through distance, through being away from people, learned a deeper awareness around personal boundaries. And the beauty of this is like you can go away, but you still, through assertiveness, when you see people again or certain things, you still have to implement them. It's not something that you just be like, oh, yeah, you know, you'll hear people say, oh, yeah, I've done this, but at the same moment, what was done in the dark comes to the light, meaning like the shadow work. Like if I've done the shadow work in me, in the darkness, facing me, being honest with me, I sit here like, okay, that has to come to the light through assertiveness, through action, through the masculine aspect of inaction. And that's the thing what I feel like the mark is missed on a lot of people not realizing. The importance of shadow work is not just doing the shadow work or the inner work, or, you know, cleansing yourself. The beauty in that is seeing yourself live it out too as well. Seeing yourself do the shadow work to see why you're in a child, or why you haven't been as expressive, vibrant as you should have been or could have been. That are the most important things, even when connections. These connections come and mirror and realize like there was a disconnect there, so I have to connect more to myself. Now this has shown me a lot more to do exactly what I came here to do. So yeah, another point that I want to get into is again recognizing that I wasn't even on that. Let me see.
A part of a healthy family dynamic. Individuality has rigid or enmeshed boundaries.
See, that's the thing where I realize a lot of people are pissed at, is that once you're breaking free out of that narcissistic aspect, and even recognizing, because again, remember I did a video with a sister where she was like, you know, everyone wanted to throw the word around narcissism and stuff like that, and I told her, I was like, I can relate to it because I was one, or not even just one, that version of me where I didn't even become aware how controlling or how manipulative. That's the danger in self-destruction, but really it leads you to what you want to call a spiritual awakening, or coming more deeper awareness of self. Is that thing right there. And I realize that's what pisses or makes people so uncomfortable, is they don't realize we've grown so much in so much control, and you'll be able to see people when they lose control of what they felt they should have control of, and that can be monetary, family, friends, partnership, it's so many levels on the physical aspect, but spiritually it's to remind you of surrenderance, getting to know you more, and realizing like, what control did I have in the beginning? It's all how I respond to this. And so that's one thing that I realized that made people uncomfortable in the dynamic of me walking in my individuality, whether it come in relationships, whether it come walking in my truth, my independence. I recognize also like, okay, oh, this is who you are. You're not really supportive of this. So then that's when I had to be able to still continue to walk in my truth. I feel like that's one of the greatest challenges for a lot of people, is the persistence of walking in one's truth, the consistency of walking in integrity, the consistency of still building healthy boundaries, even when you see a family member again that was an abuser very young, or your abuser or some form, or learning to navigate life through that integrity or through that authenticity, not caring if you're accepted. So that's what boundaries does, and also that's what I realized that bothered people the most is they see me walking my individuality. They will sit back and watch, but never support, or they couldn't control what and how I did things, so that right there in itself shattered their fucking illusion of who I was, or what they thought their life was going to consist of if they did have control over the said situation. Bro, I'm telling, I've been on both ends, and that's what the illusion of control or being in a narcissistic environment or controlled environment will show you. You shatter the illusions of people, and that right there brings up the energy that was the foundation or the floor plan for it, which will reveal again what people have kept down, what a society, a community, an environment has built upon their fortress or built their empire or built their communities on. You talking about, let's, like, for instance, when someone realizes, like, at a time in the climate of a country where being darker in certain demographics, where people can't control you, I'm telling you, I've talked about this on the video, but there were times where moments where I applied for positions and I knew they knew I was in that town. They knew I knew they were watching me. I knew that they did not even want someone like me working at a school, in their school system and so forth. And you know, I get sometimes people discriminate or, you know, whatever, they see tattoos or whatever like this. Again, that's fine and dandy, but it was so much the fact of how I still went about things in my own way. I still did what I wanted when I wanted to. And that right there, in a sense, where people feel like their foundation or their floor plan being using their pigmentation or using what they grew up in or what their belief systems is to maybe be racist or have self-hatred towards people that are, or have self-hatred within them but have hatred towards people that are dark. And then all of a sudden you shatter their illusion by being yourself or encountering them, and you realizing, like, hey, I don't care if you like me or not, to each their own. And at the same moment, we're not living in them days no more where you have people that will they believe you should be afraid just because, or you should tread lightly. Bullshit. I'm shattering illusions over here. If standing in my power and being authentic, you ain't the first that I've encountered with this. That starts from the root cause of the family dynamic, where you have your own who, due to self-hatred or due to the fact of they never had healthy boundaries, or they had people walk all over what they've done, or don't even know how to be honest or have the opportunity to walk in their individualism or their individuality. Then this ain't just about color no more. This is about spirit or souls of people who, these kids that are coming in now of a higher vibration and so forth, who deserve, just as we do, to walk in our individualism. That goes for a country who has tried to put people in a box, or want to put people in a box of believing, like, oh, again, through control, through narcissistic templates, that your individualism as a man that's darker, when we already gave you this narrative, how do you think that matters? We told you who you're supposed to be. So how you think that your individualism matters? We told you you're supposed to be a basketball player, football player, or, you know, all these stereotypes. We told you that that's what you're supposed to be. How dare you try to be something else? Okay, me, shatter your illusion. I don't give a fuck. And there's no difference in the family dynamic where everybody's supposed to do a certain thing. Everybody's supposed to believe in a certain religion. Everybody's supposed to believe in a certain religious character. Everybody's supposed to stay in the community. Everybody's supposed to do this, talk about each other. You know, just little snippets and stuff like that. No, I'm not going to do that. If I'm a cycle breaker, generational curse breaker, guess what? Fuck you and your narcissistic templates, your control and all like that. I'm a rebel with the cause, and guess what? I'm cause and effect. And so with that, I realized, like, that's where you start to realize and recognize not so much of the enemies, but who's the enemy of self. Because they refuse to walk in their individualism. They refuse to stand up in their truth. And that's what you realize you're wrestling with. It's people who are wrestling with their spiritual warfare, their own, vices and shit. Because just as somebody who smoked, I have sugar rushes. I have moments where I have things. But I have to still balance that out and discipline. Am I gonna let this keep me from walking in my purpose or being my authentic self? Absolutely not. If I was given a vision and dreams of what I'm about to do and how I'm going to have an effect on, not just from the family dynamic, but on a global, on a astral, on a spiritual, in all aspects of life. So why would I sit here and play small for you? Whether it's a celebrity or political figure or any character, why would I play small for you because of who you're supposed to be in the earthly status or even in the family dynamic? If I ain't give a fuck about how my mama viewed me, especially if it was in an unhealthy manner due to her inability to connect to her emotions or to heal herself, what makes you think that I'm going to come and let you project your shit onto me? So y'all gotta realize, your being who you are there is no price to that. Your being who you are is simply the spiritual currency that is limitless. And that's what I realize, a lot of people that wanted to be something that other people wanted them to be is something I could not relate to. And that's what I realized, which is very troublesome to a lot of people, is that once they realize, again, there were people in my family, there are people I was in relationships with, there are people who even said, you ain't shit, to my face. But people calling me all kind of stuff. And what am I doing now? Alchemizing that shit. Because they'll be able to watch, or they can choose to, when you're watching and distracting yourself by someone else's life, you're keeping yourself from walking in your individual purpose. And that's why I feel like while we were given, I think it's so weird that we're giving characters where we have to obsess over their life, celebrities or other people. Like, why do we give a fuck? Why? These narratives have to be done. This is another reason why balance is being restored. This is another reason what's keeping people distracted from doing the inner work. Because just imagine if certain things wasn't accessible to people. You would have a lot more people doing inner work. You would have a lot more souls actually choosing to elevate or evolve. And which is already happening though. But that's the beauty of us coming to the self-realization. Like, a lot of those people too, those characters are very part of those narcissistic templates, because they're behind the scenes, they are part of the control. The media, all that stuff, that is control. They represent that same narcissistic family aspect. I mean, someone can come and try to convince me differently, but nah, I don't see it no differently. Like, why do I need to see your ass when I go on social media? I never looked you up. How are you any different than a family member that wants somebody to obsess over their life? They dress up and do all this shit, and they do all this shit for attention. How are you no different? How are you no different than all these other people who obsess over like monetary shit, money and stuff that, you know, they want to brag about and showcase? How is that any different? The energy to me looks the same. It looks and feels the same. I don't see a lot of people, again, showcasing their individualism. Even if they are, it's very select few. But a lot of stuff, it looks so familiar. I'm like, ugh, that's not creative. We're not coming from a creative generation. There's a lot of people who are creative, there's a select few, but we're not coming from generations where people were creative. They are overwhelmed at this point. They never tapped into their creativity. When you're talking about being your individual self, that expresses creativity in its fullness. And with that, you're not caring who accepts and who rejects you. Because why should that matter? That's the importance of teaching our kids. I tell my daughter all the time, it don't matter what nobody say about you. Be your individual self. Walk in your purpose. You were already sent here to do exactly what you're supposed to do. That's why these kids are different, and we have an obligation to that. We are assigned to them just as they're assigned to us. So again, like, come on, man. A lot of these people are a part of those narcissistic templates, on all levels. I always call it for what I see, because how is that fucking healthy to obsess over someone? How are we not implementing boundaries to our kids? How are people so obsessive over people? That's so fucking weird. Over someone else's life or light or energy. But you know what? It is a real thing. And that just shows me where people are afraid to even go deeper within themselves or find out who it is, what they're here to do. To want to go out there and dress like someone, that's kind of strange. That's weird to me. Now, I get you want to, like, some jokingly costume and stuff, but some stuff it just I ain't even finna bring up nobody, but golly, some stuff is just wow. I'm just, my belief system, or just, you know, like I don't even think my daughter or son or just kids in general will even know about a so-called celebrity or anybody else. If they do, it's like they will just see that's a regular person. That's a regular person. Because they will know the importance of their spiritual currency, which is limitless, which is abundance, which is the fact of like that's just a regular person. That's just a regular person, G. They gotta go back home to their kids. If not, go back home to themselves, just as someday you will. What's the hype about? So just know that this world, the new order of things, is for people to come more into their individuality and seeing the interconnectedness in all of us and how that plays out collectively. I don't see the hype around, you know, this person or that person. Oh my gosh, it's for what? I'm like, for what? Like, I ain't even be that distracted over somebody. Come on, bro. I got life to live and living it up, just as you do. Yeah. So, I honestly feel like that's such an unhealthy thing to allow your child to obsess over. Like, I get them. Imagination is one thing, but yeah, crying and shouting and all this other stuff. Even adults too. I find this very weird that y'all do this stuff. To each their own. Like, yo, what? It's such and such. Oh, hi, how you doing? Life goes on. But anywho, I wanted to share that because when it's funny I'm about to say it, because bro, it's funny I say this because I felt like a celebrity my whole life even in my family dynamic growing up. But the beauty of how she said, like, how everyone is to live out their truth and purpose, I just see the misconception or the misuses of people abusing their power, how we're not encouraging kids to follow their own truth and purpose, and then look towards someone or idolize someone else who, in actuality, who's to say they're really living it? Who's to say they're really living in their purpose? Because I don't know that. I really don't know that. I don't care to know that much. But my thing is, I'm like, well, I've always felt, just young, I've always known that I was, due to even navigating stuff, going through stuff, but I just always known that I've been unique, special, miraculous. And everyone deserves to know that and to see that and be that. Just by you getting up and being yourself, I don't care if you get up and digging your nose. You digging your nose different. I don't care if you fold the tissue 5 times and then you wipe your butt. Hey, bruh, that ain't me. But hey, you know, simple stuff like there's some people out here that can do certain tricks or have natural abilities, and we're not emphasizing enough how important that is for children just to be themselves, not so much even their aesthetics and how they look, but also inwardly. Even your genetic makeup. I had to embrace more of my tooth, but see the beauty in, like, even the fact of, like, how like the uniqueness of me doing my own hair, expressing myself. I didn't ever think I would have locks. And finding ways to cut my own hair, teaching myself, that's a miracle. That's uniqueness. That's individualism. Instead of like going out there and get someone to, I'm like, well, no, I choose to be myself. I choose to have this and do it my own way. I just never cared to be like no one else. I feel like we should embody that more, to teach kids and to remind them to be them in every opportunity that they have, every day, every moment. Cause that celebrity culture shit and all the other stuff, like, we're not feeding the fan. We're not fanning that shit no more, the fire for that, because it's so much fear, control, or even manipulation around people who don't give a fuck about you or your kids or your well-being. They got a life to live. They're living their life outside of you. Just sit back and observe, you'll realize I just don't know how this world has become so obsessed with stuff like that. That's strange. Weird, I say weird. But yeah, like the embracing, like, I've accepted more of like, it's not even about trying to be perfect. My life has shown me the fact of what I did not know, and now I'm knowing perfectionism is an illusion. Perfection is illusion to me. I mean, we may be perfect in the creator's eye, but I mean like the beauty of imperfections or perfecting something. Like I'm still perfect as I am, like when I see this, but someone can find imperfections in my beauty, my natural beauty, or just who I am. I feel like the soul in itself is perfection, but when it comes to imperfection, the physical aspect, which changes and fades, that's like a beauty of that, uniqueness. Other than that, I'm like, yo, we all deserve to feel a safety and happiness. And like when I say it's weird for the like certain things out here, it's like, bro, ask yourself, what is your happiness dependent on? What is your safety dependent on? Is it something external or internal? And the more I start to come to this self-realization, I'm like, whoa. Some people belief system, like, just, yeah. Like I said, I've always felt like, if you want to use the term celebrity, but I've always walked the path of being, honoring my truth. When I was, felt like I was derailed is when I wasn't walking in my shit, or when I felt like a relationship I overstayed, or certain things I wasn't aware of because I was doing too much. Yeah, then that's when I realized, like, okay, am I really living in my truth? Am I honoring this? If not, then there's something different I have to do. So with that, yeah, y'all keep being yourself, and even if you start today, still beautiful. Y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.